Exactly. It's the All American Podcast.
That's right. We're keeping it 100 here, folks. Yeah, you might hear my kids in the background. Who cares? That's how you know I'm a good dad. You know what I'm saying? Represent for America. America. Got to work
Oof.
15-hour days. But you know what? That's okay 'cause we get to hop on here and talk about what's important. And that's sports. Today we got Ace, Malik, and Levon.
What's up,
How y'all
man?
doing, fellas?
What's going on, fellas?
I think I'm
Oh,
I'm I'm in the was it the fourth stage of grief?
Huh?
What's the five stages? Um,
five is acceptance. Fourth, I think.
I know,
First
I
one is
know.
denial.
Yes, first is it's bargaining. No, sorry.
Bargaining.
So I'm in the third stage because depression is the fourth stage. So I'm in the bargaining stage, as it pertains to the Knicks and what's going on there. But yeah. Other than that, I'm all right.
That's good. Levon, where are you at with it?
Um, Acceptance. I mean, like
Oh,
I've said it,
wow.
I've said it many times.
You're not on
We
Nixon 7? What happened to that, Captain Positivity? You were talking
No,
all
I
that
mean,
on the chat the other day.
listen. I was the one person. I don't know. I didn't pay too close attention, but I was one person who in the chat was like, "One game at a time. This is not over. It's not
Oh,
over
yeah,
until it's done." So I truly
and already
believe.
packed us up.
Yeah, I truly believe that if the Knicks somehow snap into shape, which is very
Mm.
possible, that they could win a game at home like Boston did, but the season hinges on whether or not they could wake up for game six if we get to that.
Do you
But at the
see
end,
do you
huh?
see a Cleveland Cavaliers type comeback down from 3-1 to win it?
I mean, the Pacers did that to us last year. We went up 3-1 on them and they won the last three games.
Well, that's because we all got injured. So I'm just
But
saying
I
maybe
mean,
get some
the
payback.
Pacers did it
Everybody
to
gets
us.
injured.
Cleveland, it's been done. I mean, it can be done. You just got one game at a time.
Yeah.
Um, and the vibes have to be immaculate all throughout. But I mean, we kind of brought this on ourselves as a fan base, as a team. Um, they just, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, acceptance. Because at the end of the day, whether they win or lose, I'm grown. I got things to do. Those guys are millionaires, so it is what it is.
Wow. Meeting reality on reality's terms. I like it. Focusing on the important things in life, which is the New York Liberty. They'll be winning games for the rest of the year. I think they're going to go undefeated. But on an actual serious note, the Knicks will be all right. I don't know what's going to happen in the series. I think they're going to win game five. I'm picking them for game five. But you said you wanted to get my honest reaction on something, so I wanted to let you go ahead with that, because you had a good question for us teed up to start this.
Yeah, man.
No, you were going to ask me something. Did you
Who?
not have a question?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, no, you're the moderator. You're the one asking the questions. I said what I.
You
Yeah.
you said you wanted to talk about a specific topic, and you said
Oh.
one.
I don't
I
know.
wanted to
Well,
start with
what's the
that.
rundown? What are we doing here? You set the rundown. Are we doing that? Are we doing my specific topic first, or are we gonna hit the rundown, which was supposed to be the Knicks, the finals? What was it? What was it?
For
What
the
did
Knicks, we were going
I,
to talk
Vaughn,
about the fun.
what did
I
I
love how
say
you
about
just
the
giving everybody the
jankiness on
show.
this podcast? It's the
It
janky,
ain't
okay?
janky.
It's
It
the
ain't
janky.
janky.
You know what?
It's
You know what?
organized.
It is. Dude, you didn't even say welcome to the Upload Parlay podcast
All
I
until
right,
said,
hold on, hold on.
welcome to the Uptown Parlay
like
podcast.
4 minutes
Let me
in.
gotta ask my question. Here it is. All right, I want to know, and this might be fake news, but I want to know your reaction to, and I quote, "I wouldn't mind getting my tush pushed from your franchise quarterback." What is your reaction to that, sir?
What are you talking about? I don't reaction. Who said that?
Caleb Williams, if I'm not mistaken, was asked about how the tush push wasn't banned, and I didn't look it up, I didn't listen, but I know somebody like cut a quote where he said, "I wouldn't mind getting my tush pushed."
Okay, I'm pretty confident until I actually get some news that he actually said that, I'm not going to believe that he put that out there into the ether because I feel like Twitter would be on fire. And I checked that today, and I was viewing on TikTok, and ain't nobody talking about that. And most of my clips that I get to all the social media that I'm following are Bear stuff, Knicks stuff, and unfortunately, they keep sending me the Diddy trial, which is all the nasty stuff I'm trying to avoid. I keep having to click not interested, thumbs down, all that. But whatever, I guess they know I'm black, so they think I want to pay attention to it. But that sounds crazy, is what that sounds like. That sounds super out of pocket if that's what Caleb Williams actually said. That does not sound like anything any NFL player would say. And the Bears voted against it. Unlike Malik's team, the Detroit Lions, and the New York Jets, Ant's team, who are like, oh, we're going to try to run it because we got Justin Fields. So we're going to use it to our advantage.
The Lions didn't say anything about wanting to run it. They said we'll try to stop it. That's what they said. And
Have they beaten Philadelphia in the past 2 years since they started winning all these games?
They haven't played Philadelphia in the last 2 years.
Wait, seriously? Not once?
Nope.
So this will be the first year they get to play them. Both of them are actually having good teams. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Levon, that sounds like some hearsay you just brought up. And
I'm checking on it right now.
I'm mad at you for even bringing this to this
I am
podcast.
checking on it
As janky as we are, that is just reckless speculation.
I am checking on it as we speak. You know the internet is undefeated, but I am checking on it.
The internet is very defeated. The internet has lost a lot of battles. I don't know if you know that. Yeah, they stay losing. All right, since I'm going to moderate and you're actually going to stay on subject, we are going to talk about the Western Conference Finals and Shavante Gilgis Alexander, the foul merchant, or we need to go with a different name, the flopper. I thought flopping was a foul, but this man throws himself on the ground every time he drives to the paint, drives to the hoop. He's getting all these calls, and people are like, well, that's just good basketball. So it's the opposite of what James Harden is doing, which is waiting for people to reach or the rip through move to try to draw fouls. At least he's actually trying to go to the basket. The most annoying part about it to me is the fact that he keeps getting all of these weak calls and it's legitimately affecting the game. People want to keep pointing to the stats that Michael Jordan actually had more foul calls. Kobe had more foul calls in 12 straight playoff games than he did. But I think they're kind of missing the point of the flopping. He's getting February fouls in May, and that's what's annoying. And I wanted to get y'all opinion on it because everybody keeps saying nobody wants to watch OKC and Indiana. If that ends up being what it is, Malik.
Well, I mean, no one wants to. Well, I don't think it's that nobody wants to see it. People want to see good basketball. I mean, everybody talks about the, big market, big market teams. But if it's good basketball and you're into basketball and you're not just watching because you're a fan of Team A or Team B, it is the finals. You'll still watch it. You'll still pay attention, especially if it's an interesting series and it's back and forth and all of that stuff. So, I think the rush to assume that it's going to be a lowly rated series, it maybe game one would be lowly rated if that wound up being the case. But, after that, once people got wind of, the actual, how well the games are being played and all that stuff, it'll even itself out. I don't particularly enjoy the context about, Shea being a flopper. I mean, hey, Jalen Brunson. I don't know if you guys heard it during the telecast yesterday. Indiana was chanting flopper to him when he was on the free throw line. I think it was in the third quarter of the game last night. But it's small guards, getting into the lane and utilizing tactics to create contact, put themselves to the free throw line. I mean, James Harden, started doing it. Chris Paul did it for years, as a point guard, stopping, mid run, slowing down so that the defender would run into his back to create that. anything that you can do. The game is about, basketball is about creating opportunities for yourself to score points, and that's it. And if you score, you score enough points, you win the
Ooh.
games. And so the reality of the situation is whatever Shea has to do, whatever Jalen has to do, whatever Harden has to do, whatever Halliburton has to do, whatever these guys got to do to put themselves in positions to, score points and put points on the board, then you do it. And yeah, it might not look great, just like the tush push doesn't look great, but it's effective, it works, and it wins them games. So there's no reason to like, you know, to knock it, beat it, defeat it. Don't be drawn into bad defensive plays where you make stupid fouls, because because people are baiting you into doing it, and if you can stop yourself from making those ticky tack fouls, then that's how you get around it. But with
That's
respect to
fair.
the series itself, if it
Yeah.
winds up being OKC versus Indiana, if that winds up being the series, I could definitely see myself, checking in for a couple of games to see how everything is going. What I wouldn't want to see is obviously, a sweep or just a series of blowouts. Good basketball, I think,
Um,
will keep people invested.
I think I, to your point about watching it, I'm gonna watch the finals because it's the NBA finals. Like, listen, I watched the World Series when it was Texas versus Arizona, and that was the lowest rated World Series I think in history since they've been keeping track of that. That's a whole
Hmm.
nother sport, but even still, like, I'm watching the NBA finals now. They might lose the West Coast. People may not be as invested, and I know people in Seattle are tight because this is their former team. But back to the flopping thing, it's not that he's stopping and starting and getting people to run into him. It's that whenever he gets any bit of contact going towards the hoop, he
Yeah,
somehow he flails to the ground. What
he
Brunson
sells it.
is, yeah, what Brunson is, it's the selling of the fouls that annoys people. It's not that he's getting the calls. If he was just playing through the contact and getting hit and they're calling it, that's fine. Because I see the same thing happen to the other players and then I get the calls. So that's really more of what's getting on people's nerves. So I get it, it's gamesmanship.
Yeah.
And if you on my team, I wouldn't complain, but he's not a small guard. Dude is 6'6". Like, he's just thin. There's a
Well, I
difference.
mean, but he's
He
but he,
weighs
but
like
he's still
198
he's still
pounds.
a guard, right? So it doesn't look like, he's still a guard. He makes a large portion of his plays in and around the painted area, in the mid range area as well. He's not a prolific 3-point shooter, by any means. So he's not the type of guy. He definitely goes in to get contact and to draw contact and get himself to the free throw line. Like that's a part of his
That's
game.
facts.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
and the reality is, that's one thing that you definitely can say is that it lasts as long as he's still a star. We don't see Harden getting nearly as much. Um,
Oh, because
well,
they
this,
changed the rules.
yeah, Harden's still doing a lot of the same things he was always doing, but you don't see him getting nearly as much leverage on free throws as he used to get when he was at his best. The game shifts, the rules shift. Things change to accommodate it. So we'll see.
Ron, what do you got to say if you're still available, if you're around?
Yeah, I'm still available, sir. I don't have
Go
a
ahead.
ton to say on it. I think I mean it's all about what the refs call, and it changes depending on what crew it is. It changes depending on what game it is in the series. It changes depending on if it's home or away. It's crafty. It's smart. He's a guard, and if he's going to the hole, if he can create contact to where it works in his favor, and that's just smart. That's where the game is going. It's part of the evolution of the game. The 3-point shot, the step back, the allowing people to travel with the basketball. Especially in the playoffs, where the game is more physical anyway, and there should be less fouls called if he's getting the benefit of the whistle, then obviously he's making his living, in and around the restricted area, so to speak. And for a small guard to do that in the playoffs is refreshing. To be honest, when you got, guards who should be doing that, living outside and taking nothing but 3-point shots and logo threes. It's good to watch Shea, make his living in the paint and be crafty around the rim. So I agree with Malik, beat it, be smart. If you know what he's doing, then adjust your defense and try to stop it. Because if it's as well talked about and documented as it is, then it shouldn't be real hard to game plan around it.
All right. That's fair. I don't know. I'm more in the I don't think he's doing things that unusual and he's not getting the benefit of the whistle as much as I'd say even Jordan did or even Kobe did in a lot of these playoffs in the 2000s and the late 2000s, where it seemed like he was just getting calls when people breathed on him. But it does appear to be a lot more floppery. It does appear he's trained in the school of LeBron James, where if you touch him, he's going to collapse like he got shot by a sniper. Which to me is more of the point that people were harping on, as opposed to the fact that
Well,
it's not a foul at all.
That's his style of play, and you're right. LeBron kind of ushered that whole thing in, where it's like, don't play through contact, be affected by it, and let the refs affect the basketball game. Where when we watch basketball, you play through contact. Even though Jordan got every whistle, Jordan never foul baited or tried to do any of that. He hung in the air. He tried to score, and he sought buckets, not fouls and a free trip or a free possession. But it's just the game has changed, and that is due to the LeBrons, the James Hardens, and the evolution and where the game has gone. So very true.
We're going to move over to the NFL to talk about the in-season Hard Knocks, which is going to feature the NFC least this year. They had 2 playoff teams last year. Maybe the Giants are going to improve. We don't know. They're going to have the defending world champion Philadelphia Eagles and your New York Football Giants. Are you excited, Levon? You ready for that? Have you ever watched the in-season one? Malik's rolling his eyes. I don't know why.
Did I miss the Knicks conversation, or are we saving that for last?
I was trying to wait for Ant to get on because he had a lot of opinions, but I don't think he's going to be jumping on. But we can.
I'm glad Ant started watching basketball again. I mean, when did he officially start? He's invested, but he might be a little too invested. Sometimes I worry about his blood pressure, the way he's.
I worry about my blood pressure. I'd say the middle of the season when I started talking about it after the All-Star game.
Oh, okay.
Football was officially over.
To answer your question about the Giants, I watched the in-season one for, I think, Arizona. Hard Knocks is always interesting. No, that's a lie. It's not. It depends on the team that they're following and what happens. And every time they did Dallas, it wasn't interesting. It seemed scripted. Same with the Jets. The Jets are on there so much.
So was the Bears one interesting when they did it last year for preseason?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch that, sir. I didn't watch that. But wow. I think everybody can agree that the Hard Knocks, where they actually did the offseason with the Giants, was one of the most watched and talked about, specifically because everybody loves offseason talk, the draft, trades, free agency, and everything that happened with the Giants in that time period was talked about well after it aired. So sometimes they do a good job. It depends on which teams they cover. It'll probably be a lot of Jaden Daniels and the Redskins. It'll definitely be a lot of Cowboys. It'll be a lot of the champs. They should talk about my team least of all, to be honest, because Giants don't. I mean, compared to all those other teams I mentioned, they don't really have much, unless they make news somehow with something that happens during OTAs and training camp. Yeah, I don't know, man. It could be. That's the in-season one, right? Or are they following Buffalo?
That's the in-season one. They're following Buffalo in the preseason.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it could be. It depending. I guess the games might be pretty interesting when they start doing them, because the NFC East, not least, is one of the most competitive divisions now. The Redskins did go to the NFC Championship game. Dallas is always
in the Commanders, Grandpa.
And the Eagles did win the Super Bowl. So I don't know where you get that NFC least garbage from, sir. Super Bowl defending champs and the other representative in the NFC championship game reside in the NFC East, buddy. So get it together. Get it together. That's the last positive thing I'll say about the Redskins and Eagles from now until the season's over.
You just can't stop yourself, huh? That team ain't been called that in like 6 years. That's
Redskins.
what's crazy to me. They ain't been
Redskins.
called that in 6 years. Oh
Redskins.
man. Malik, what do you got to say, man? What do you got to say about it?
I'm tired.
It should be good. I mean, I typically watch the in season, the preseason one. Definitely watch that one, regardless of the team. But the in season one, I did watch the Arizona one. I did watch. I didn't watch the Colts one. And I did catch at least a couple of episodes of the AFC North one that aired last season. I mean, it's all about the stories and the narratives, right? So Levon's point, if they'll do a story on all four teams, but if the Giants, for instance, are out of the mix for either division or playoff situation, within a couple of episodes they'll slowly pull back on the coverage of that team, and then they'll start following the teams that are actually that are competing. I
Yeah.
think this is probably going to be one of the more interesting ones, primarily because of the characters that exist in this. There's a lot of characters in the NFC East. I mean, from Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn is a character. If you've ever
Yeah.
seen or heard some of his speeches, and then you've got Jerry Jones with the Cowboys and all of that insanity that goes on over there. And then, of course, you've got Sirianni and Hurts and Barkley and those guys over there in Philly. So, I mean, if anything, I think Levon's right. I mean, the Giants are probably the least. I mean, and even with the Giants, you've got Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Malik Neighbors, I'm sure is going to get a ton of publicity and stuff like that. But, so there's a lot of characters for this one. I think the NFC East, by virtue of both being because the Cowboys and the Eagles are in it, the Eagles being that they're won the Super Bowl and the Cowboys are still probably the most popular team in the NFL. By the virtue of them both getting tons of national coverage over the course of the season because of their stature, that's going to make this season of Hard Knocks that even that much more compelling. So I think this might actually be the most compelling season of Hard Knocks that we've ever seen. Especially on the in-season variety with the four teams, because of the characters, the storylines, which we already know are going to be there.
That's
and the
true.
potential for national coverage in between that.
I'm interested in how many episodes
Because Dayball, I think, is coaching for his job. It's going to be from week 8 or week 9 until the end of the season. So week 9 until week 18.
So I mean, it would behoove
8
them
weeks
to, I guess, especially feature weeks where the teams play each other. So you could, but even if they did that, they're never going to.
Well, they did that with the AFC North one, which was pretty good.
Yeah, but I didn't see that. But I would find it hard to believe that they'll actually show teams preparing for other teams. So it's like, what are you going to show us? You're not going to show any game plans. You're not going to show any practices. You're going to show what players eating dinner before they go to practice, or talking about.
They'll show players at practice, but they already kind of have scouted each other. It's not like they don't know what the Giants are going to do, and what they don't know your plays down to a T. But like,
they're not going to show anything.
They just won't show
You're not going to see
formation.
You're not going to see what the first 15 scripted plays are going to be for the Giants, or how they install, or what the scouting report says about Dak and CD and how the kid they just got from Pittsburgh. They're not going to show any of that stuff unless they show it after the games are played. Like I said,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so typically the episodes run 1 week behind the season. So
okay, got it.
Yeah, so it'll be like it'll be in week 10. The games will be getting ready to play for week 10, and the episode of Hard Knocks will be talking about what happened in week 9.
Okay.
about the preparation because that's when HBO is obviously doing, their recording and everything like that, and then they're editing and everything, and then it comes out like right before week 10. So there's always some conversation around, oh hey, like I remember the AFC North one. There was a game that was getting ready to be played. I think it was Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Yeah, it was a big game when they were both like 10 wins or something like that. And there was conversation between Tomlin and I think it was a Watt or no,
Dick
Tomlin
LeBeau.
in the room with he was in the room with the coaches, and they were talking about the threat of Lamar Jackson, and they were talking about how they, what they need to do to defend the guy and stuff like that. And again, like then during that episode, the game happened, and then Baltimore beat them, and then there was reactions and responses to it. So, but HBO is they've been doing it for so long, they're pretty good at editing it so that it's not we're not seeing like the big board of like, oh, this is what we're going to do against this team because it can be used against them.
Mm.
But yeah, a lot of it is done like after the fact of what you see.
I'm gonna move on to the Knicks. Levon, since you're so anxious and eager to talk about them.
That's the hot topic, man. What are we doing
My
here?
main my
Burying the
main
lead.
point. That's right. I'm making them wait for it. My main thing with the Knicks is the coaching to me has been atrocious. He's not matching his rotations and he's not able to make adjustments. And that's what really bothers me with Tibbs. Like he was able to change it up to get the win in game three, and he got a different spark off the bench with him not putting in Deuce McBride, Miles McBride, whatever you want to call it. He needs to be in the game a lot more because this ain't working for us. You know? It hasn't been working for us for a while. I just don't understand why he's not making these adjustments because it's making me insane. And the Knicks have way too many turnovers. And I don't understand why they haven't figured out a better strategy to defend the Pacers. Being as the last time they played them in February, they beat them by an easy 13 and everybody was healthy for the Pacers. That was like right before the All-Star break. But they got them and they beat them in a high scoring game, 120, 138 to 115. And it seems as if we're going to go above 100 for whatever reason. We can't beat the Pacers. We've played Thomas Bryant off the court, but for whatever reason, TJ McConnell is now going to kill us, which don't make no damn sense to me. So they got to figure out something to get McBride some more minutes and find a way to play Brunson and Towns in the best offensive lineup we have at the same time and figure it out. Make Hallie try to score the points because right now he's picking us apart with these assists.
True.
I don't know what y'all thoughts were on it, but that's where I'm at. Because right now, unless the Knicks are getting like 6, 7 points in this game, I don't know if I can actually just take them with the points. I might have to like tease it up to like 10 points, depending on how they trying to play at home. I'd like to see them win a home game in the conference finals. So I'm tired of losing to damn Indiana, but this is one of the few teams that I actually consider a rival. It's Indiana, and then to me it would be Indiana, Chicago, and not even so much Boston, but the fact that we beat them was nice because we knocked them off of that championship first, and me living up here. I really enjoyed watching the Cats lose, even though I like Jalen Brown, like the rest of them kick rocks. So I don't know what y'all think, but what fixes do you think they got to put in to be able to actually bring the same game home tomorrow, game six?
Who's that for? Malik, you want to go?
Either or, whoever
You
wants
go
to
ahead.
take it first.
You go ahead, Levon.
Well, it's a lot involved in that. I really think the problem is that there's not and I've said this in the chat, a healthy respect and fear for your opponent when it's playoff time is necessary. And the Knicks, quite obviously, from game one, when they very obviously and evidently let up in that fourth quarter and allowed this team to steal home court. And I don't think they ever recovered from it because in game one, the Knicks outplayed the Pacers every which way they could. Out-rebounded them, half-court game, slowed it down, ran with them, and kept the lead and expanded it all the way until, and I can't remember exactly how much time was left when we were up 16 points in the fourth, but the Pacers were in Chuck mode.
3:50 left in the fourth quarter.
3:50 left in the fourth. Pacers in Chuck mode, and we all know what happened. Neesmith went off. But the Knicks did not have enough respect for an opponent that ended the season hot, that took apart a Milwaukee team that was not whole. There was no Lillard, but they still took that team apart. Took apart the best team in the East, the team that was the number one seed, had the best record. Took that team apart, and they earned their spot in the ECF. And the Knicks, because they beat Boston, and as fans, I'm guilty of it too. We looked at Boston as the main roadblock, staring at it the entire season. Round 2, we're gonna play the Celtics. They've been blowing us out. How are we gonna stop Tatum? 5 out this. They can guard every position, 1 through 5, switchable, this and that. We built that up as fans, and I truly believe the Knicks as a team built that up so much that they were not prepared for the Eastern Conference Finals. Because when you look at the Boston series and you look at the intensity in which the Knicks played offensively, defensively, getting over screens, switching, passing the ball, going to the basket, the same intensity is not there when they've been playing against the Pacers. It is not there. After turnovers, heads are down, dudes are jogging back on defense, hands are flailing up in the air. It's too much conversation for the refs. Nobody outside of JB is truly attacking the basket. And part of the reason why I couldn't continue to watch that game after halftime yesterday is because I watched Bridges and I watched Josh Hart turn the ball over on consecutive possessions with just a play style that does not look indicative of a team that is one step away from the championship round. And it was inexplicable to me. I'm like, I don't understand why these men are sitting here playing this game like this. Like, they truly do not care. And I want to just speak on Coach Tibbs because I know you mentioned that. I can't blame a coach. I can't keep blaming the coach because when
I fired him 5 times already, so that's just me.
When the Knicks play well, he's
beginning
coach of the year, and he outcoached Joe Mazzulla and Tibbs this
I think
and
he got
Tibbs
lucky.
that. But exactly. When we lose it, he got lucky. He doesn't know what he's doing. These matchups. It's not that. The coach puts the plays in. He subs the guys in. They got to execute. I get it. Some of his, rotations are a bit suspect, but that falls on the players. If Josh Hart was delivering, and if he wasn't turning the ball over, and if he wasn't getting cooked by whoever is opposite of him, if Mikal Bridges' point of attack defense was a little bit better, a whole lot better, then we'd be praising Tibbs for playing these guys the minutes he's playing them, or for going with Josh Hart for as long as he does, and all this other stuff. So I mean, we gotta taper that down, where we're hot and cold with the takes and all of our judgments based on what's happening in the moment. We got to just look at what's happening on the court and wonder why a player who we depended on all year to bring us intangibles when it comes to rebounds, effort, fast break, finishing at the basket. Everybody used to say Josh Hart next to LeBron James on the break, finishing at the rim is one of the best in the league. Where is it? Where has that been in this Pacers series? He's challenged nobody. He gets the ball, he brings it up court, he gets to the three-point line, he turns around, he picks it up, he's looking to pass. It's like, where has Josh Hart gone? What has happened to his game in this ECF? I have no idea. And Mikal Bridges, all that inspired defense on Tatum, on Brown, where he's stealing the ball, wrestling it from people. Where is that on Tyrese Halliburton? DeLon Wright played better point of attack defense in his limited minutes on Tyrese Halliburton than Mikal Bridges has done. And it's like, I don't understand. What are you doing? Y'all both sit on the same bench in the same locker room. Ask DeLon Wright what the fuck he's doing and proceed. Instead of backpedaling until Halliburton has you on your heels and is in the paint and he can pick his poison at that point. I just think the team is playing like they are already lost. They already lost. And it's non-inspired basketball. And it's inexplicable. These are grown men paid to do a job. And they are failing. They're failing. And it's not the coach's fault. It's not. I don't know what it is. It's nothing on the court because matching up body for body, we are better than the Pacers. Body for body matching up, we are a better basketball team. But somewhere, I don't know, I'm not in the locker room, but they forgot that or they don't believe it themselves. And it's just, to me, that's just it, man. That's it. You know, Mikal Bridges can't hit a corner three for some reason. Save OG Anunoby is out there like he's playing basketball for the first time, dropping the ball, you know, under the basket, losing the basketball, pump faking. I'm like, what is going on here? Oh man! All right, I've spoken way too long. Malik, what do you
Yeah,
think?
Malik. You have a lot of criticism for the players. I do find that interesting because the coach is the one who's supposed to prepare them and put them in a position to win.
These are grown men, Ace.
And
What do you
I
mean?
don't
These are
feel like
grown
he's
men.
doing that.
What do you think he's supposed? These aren't kids playing in JUCO. These are grown men playing ball their whole
He's a
lives. What do you think
defensive head
Tony is
coach.
doing?
He's a defensive head coach. He needs to
Well,
come up
what
with a
kind
better
of
game plan.
primitive prepping do
He
you
needs to
think a
come up with a
coach
better game
does in
plan
the
to slow
NBA?
down Indiana.
What do you think? What other game plan is he supposed to have? Guard the point of attack, stay in front of Halliburton, switch it. That's what he's doing. What else? They have to
How to
execute.
figure out how to stop Siakam. Maybe a little less switching and a little bit more man.
What does it bring?
Siakam
He's
Siakam has gone off
OG
for
out
30
there.
in the past 2 games.
He's
And it's
cooking
gone
OG
crazy.
out there. What do you want? What do you want Tibbs to do about that? He's hitting his shots over OG's stretched arm. What else do you want him to do about it? OG's got to play better defense with his former teammate. He's got to lock him up.
He needs to find somebody else to try to guard him to figure.
I mean,
you
can put Cat on him.
If they can have a smaller guy guard Cat, then we need to figure out how to have a smaller guy guard him.
You can say these things, sir, but you got who you got on that bench. You got who you got in that starting lineup. Josh Hart is not an excellent defender. He never has been an excellent defender. He's an effort guy. Your best 2 defenders are getting cooked. OG is getting cooked, filleted by Siakam, and Mikal Bridges has forgotten how to guard the point of attack. He's just backpedaling. I'm like, why don't you pick this man up and make him dribble that ball and pick? DeLon Wright did it yesterday. I watched him do it. I watched him make Halliburton pick that ball up as soon as he brought it across half court and make a decision. Bridges is just backpedaling until Halliburton decides if he wants to go right, left, or shoot a 3.
Malik, let's hear what you got to say.
I mean, I enjoy the banter back and forth. I mean, obviously, everybody deserves some modicum of the blame for, where the team is at this point. Obviously, Levon's, right. This is the Eastern Conference Finals. A coach can do but so much to impact, scoring, to impact, good play by his team. Like if the team's out there struggling, I mean, the area that I will definitely put on the head coach, Tibbs or anybody else, is recognizing when a situation isn't going right and trying to make the adjustments that can possibly be made to rectify that. To Levon's point about how DeLon Wright has played in this series so far, the few minutes that he's gotten, he's been really good, which would tell me that it's possible that maybe he should be getting more time. And maybe we should be staggering some of those minutes that Josh Hart is getting, staggering some of those minutes that Mikal Bridges is getting in favor of a guy like DeLon Wright, who, even though he's not the offensive player that those guys are, he, defensively, he's able to, make some things happen, and he doesn't, he's able to, run the show a little bit. He can, run some point guard for you as well, which he did at the end of the season when Jalen Brunson was hurt, where he got a lot of playing time, while Jalen Brunson was out with his ankle injury. Also seeing things like the switch to the starting lineup, getting Mitchell Robinson in there in the starting lineup, and sitting Josh Hart. The story is that Josh Hart was the one that actually brought that to the attention of Tibbs at the end of the Boston series, and Tibbs, neglected to go with it at the time. Josh Hart suggested and recommended that he come off the bench, and Tibbs ended up going with it in
Malik, real quick,
game 3.
Malik, real quick to your point, that in itself right there, him asking to go to the bench, something's wrong with that man's confidence. It's obvious to me. Who asked to go to the bench? I don't give a damn what the reason is. Who asked to go to the bench in the middle of a playoff run where you are 8 games away from an NBA championship? I mean, if that's true, Tibbs is probably like, I don't want to take too much of your time, but Tibbs is probably looking at him like, we need you. We need you to do what you've been doing. I don't need you on the bench. I need Josh Hart. Mitch can do what he can do off the bench like he's been doing, but we need you in there affecting wins with your effort, your hustle, your decision making, all of that. But he's asking that something's up, man. Something's wrong there. All right, Malik.
I think the primary reason at the time, I think it was after Game 5, heading into Game 6, is when again, I think the primary reason was after what Luke Cornett did in Game 5 in that Boston series, and the impact that he was having in the paint, putting another guy in the paint, also freed up Cat a little bit. Gives him some more opportunity to play at the four slot, play in some space. Honestly speaking, man, I don't look at that as Josh Hart being non-competitive or trying to shy away from the moment. I can see how somebody would think that, but I don't necessarily think it that way. I think there's more of just trying to come up with ideas, and floating ideas on how we can be more effective, how we can be a better team, and if it winds up working, great. But if it doesn't, you roll back. But again, whether it's suggested or recommended or not, this is what teams are supposed to do, and the coach ultimately has the decision to go with it or not, and that should be based off of what he's seeing out there on the floor, how guys are playing, how guys are feeling, and he's feeling the game and understanding the game in the same way that those guys are playing the game. So that's the only part. But again, to me that's a small piece of what's happening out there. I had a conversation with my son's coach, and my son, my oldest son plays, he's not AAU, but he plays a lot of rec basketball, and been in leagues for the last couple of years. And his coach, he played pro ball overseas, and his coach likes to say to the team on a regular basis, he tells them, either when they're getting blown out or when they're winning games, he tells them, basketball is it's a simple game. It's a very simple sport at its core. If you don't turn the ball over, if you make plays, move your feet on defense, there are simple things that you can do that make the game easy for you. A lot of times people they overcomplicate it for themselves by trying to do too much, by trying to push things. And so, like when you're teaching kids in the same way that when you're teaching grown men, and when you're watching these grown men play, everything about the way that the Knicks play basketball is hard. It's difficult. It's a Karl Anthony Towns ISO top of the key, charges the ball into the lane, tries to get the ball, get a shot off, and get to the free throw line. It looks absolutely horrible. Everything Jalen Brunson has to do on the floor takes 15 dribbles, 7 seconds, and is about the level of difficulty is insane. Mikal Bridges taking the ball into the paint, trying to make a play, fadeaway jump shots. Sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. The mid range, Josh Hart's drive to the baskets, OG Anunoby's drive to the baskets. What you don't see a lot of with the Knicks is ball movement. What you don't see a lot of with the Knicks is transition baskets, pace, pushing pace, all of those things. Levon, you made a comment earlier about just like, the team on paper, top to bottom being better than the Pacers. And I don't necessarily disagree with that from a talent perspective. I do think that the Knicks have the more talented roster and have had the more talented roster for the entire duration of the series. I don't think that they've played better team basketball, and I don't think they played better team basketball over the course of the season than the Pacers. If you've watched, some Pacers games, and I've watched a few, I don't think they played better team basketball than the Pacers. And the Pacers have been together for 2 seasons. They've been together for a long time now doing the exact same thing. The Pacers are exactly who they were last year. They're the exact same team that they were. And they're winning that way. And they're clicking. And when they get hot, they can score 135, 140 points. And it's relatively easy. The Knicks can't defend them. The Pacers aren't really defending the Knicks, but the Pacers the Knicks are making turnovers, and the Pacers are taking advantage. They had, I think, 17 fast break points, 17 points off of turnovers last night. The Knicks have lost the turnover battle the entire series. Every single game, they've lost the turnover battle. Um, they haven't had hit the offensive rebounds the same way that they had in the Boston series. They hadn't done a lot of the things that you expect to see from the Knicks. You're just not getting. And when you're not getting those things, it's execution on the court. You're not getting those things, you don't win basketball games, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals and especially against very good basketball teams. I don't like to believe that professional basketball players in the Eastern Conference Finals or the Western Conference Finals for that matter overlook their opponents or, underestimate what their opponents can do. I do think that happens in, game to game. I do think game to game that's definitely a possibility.
Wait, you said in what big games?
No, game to game. I think that, you can be in a game and be up 25 and kind of, pull your foot off the gas, right?
Let me ask you a question real quick. And answer this as honestly as you can, no matter what I'm going to believe, in spite of your answer.
Gotcha.
But did you, well, both of you, did you not feel a sense of accomplishment after that Boston series? And did you not feel like this Pacers series would not be nearly as big a challenge?
No. And I'll tell you this.
I felt a huge sense of accomplishment on the first question. On the second question, to make it real quick, I thought it would be 50-50 because the Knicks are one of the slowest paced teams all season, and the Pacers are one of the top 7 fastest. The only team faster in pace that's left in the series and playoffs is OKC. The fastest team all year was Memphis, and they went out quick in the first round to OKC.
So Indiana waiting for us in the ECF, and all we got to do is close out Boston.
And I thought it was 50-50. So once they blew game 1, I was like, that's not great.
I'm not. See, this is hindsight again. You gotta try your best.
I'm sorry. Pre-game 1, I said 50-50.
You were thinking
it's a coin flip. I thought it was a coin flip.
You were thinking the Knicks had a chance to lose game 1
50-50 chance. Yeah,
50-50.
It's 50-50 chance every game.
I'm gonna take what y'all say, but I don't believe that for one bit. I do not.
Because I was looking at the advanced stats because I was betting on the Knicks.
I believe that the
50-50,
majority,
legitimately,
98% of Knicks fans figured that we were 80-20, if not 70-30, going to just take care of the Pacers, if not in 5 and 6 games, after we beat Boston the way we did. Yeah, I'm telling you.
No. So I'll answer what your question. I picked Knicks in 7. That was my pick. I picked Knicks in 7. So the first part of your question, no, I didn't believe that I didn't feel a sense of, accomplishment or pride or anything with respect to the Boston series. I felt a sense of relief to some degree because I truly
tomato.
No, relief is different because it
definitely is, but I could have used that word if you wish. Relief.
But no, when I say relief, I mean what I mean from that is I didn't think watching the Boston series, and I know we'll take it back there, but I think I said this last week. I thought that the Knicks played 2 very good games in that series.
Okay.
The other, they were thoroughly outplayed in 2 games. The other 2 games that they won, they did not play well for the vast majority of those games. So having that series happen, and then even the Detroit series, the Knicks won that series in 6, but every single game
it was a struggle.
It was a struggle. It was an absolute struggle. It was a dogfight, and I give credit to those teams, to Boston and to Detroit for putting the Knicks through it. But this is why I felt I felt a level of relief to get through the Boston series, because I said you can't get the gift of those two victories in games 1 and 2 and lose and find a way to lose a series. Find yourself in a game 7 having to win a game 7 in Boston. Like, you can't do that. So when they won the game, by 40 in game 6 and they closed them out, I felt relief. Like I was like, thank God they didn't put themselves in that situation. But I also felt a level of fear because, again, every round requires more of you, and I watched 4 of the 5 Cleveland and Indiana games. And I watched that Indiana team literally take apart a Cleveland team that, yes, was injured, did have injury issues, but they were not in any of those games. They were getting boat raced a vast majority of the time in those games, and they were outclassed by Indiana in those games. I also felt, and this is just me, right? You take this what it is. I looked at that Boston series and all of the celebration and all of the, I even said it after game one of the Boston series when, Madison Square Garden, when the people were out and screaming and jumping on side. I was just like, come on, dude, it's one game. Let's stop. When
Yeah,
the
it was
fans were,
embarrassing.
it's embarrassing.
It was
Celebrating
embarrassing.
one game one, a victory, like you're out
Yeah,
there
but that's all
on the.
people trying to get famous on
But
social media. Like
I
real
get
talk.
no, but it's stupid. It's still dumb. It's still dumb. But it shows a level of hubris. It shows a
Yep.
level of
Yep.
lack of respect for your opponent.
Your
For
opponent.
you
Yep.
could potentially lose the next 4 games, and we would and it wouldn't be and like
Yeah,
you
it's bad.
what are
It's
you what are
bad
you
luck.
doing
You
here?
really expect that from the fans, though? You
But
expect
my
that from
thing
the
is,
No,
my
fans
thing
I
is
outside?
this. My thing is this. The team is a reflection of the fans. You got to understand. Other teams, when they come into the Garden, why do you think they play so well at MSG? Why do you think they come in there and everybody wants to light up MSG and it's the worst home
Because
court
it's a
advantage in the
spotlight.
league?
Because it's a big deal.
Because
Because
because of the
I'll put it
fans.
I'll put it
Because
to you
it's
like
the
this. No. If the
because
if
it's New York.
Indiana was doing this against, I'm sorry to cut you off. If Indiana was doing this against Atlanta, if Indiana was doing this against Orlando, it wouldn't mean as much as them beating the Knicks, as them
Well,
beating Boston.
absolutely.
yeah. But
Winning in New
They
York.
have to beat a big market team for it to matter.
no. But
That's why they want to play well
let
in the
me
Garden.
paint this. Let me
Nobody
paint this.
goes and drops 100 in Market Square Arena, whatever the hell they want to call it now. Gainbridge Center, insert insurance company, investment company here, stadium. Okay, they don't even have a name. Insert sponsored stadium here. Don't nobody
MS
care who has the most points in Indiana.
when
People know who
you
has the most points in the Garden.
when you who has the most points? Did you ask a question?
No, people know that. People know
Oh
that
yeah,
off
yeah,
top.
yeah.
They know who has the most points
When
in the Garden. That's what
when you as a fan base, I mean, it's a thing. Fan bases like the Cowboy fans, Knicks fans. When you as a fan base can inspire such vitriol for a team because of how arrogant and entitled you appear to be. When you got celebrities coming out to games just to get on camera, and you got fans climbing light poles after a victory, the other teams, they see that. They come in and they want to crush the building when they see that. They want to know what they want to quiet the crowd. They want to see what happens when the Knicks lose. What will the fans do then? That plays a part, sir. It does.
Well,
And
it
when
definitely does.
it plays a huge part when these teams come in here and you got Halliburton putting up the choke sign and doing all these histrionics in the Garden. He doesn't do that crap when they play against other teams and other teams' stadiums. He's not doing all that extra stuff. And they play against the Sacramento Kings, to Ace's point. But that's part of it. That's part of it. And the fans contribute to that. And the team, that seeps in, man. Those are human beings. Going back to something Malik said about not looking past, they damn sure look past. They damn sure read all of the press clippings. They listen to different podcasts. They hear everybody saying Boston is the team they're not supposed to get past. They hear all of that. They hear all of that, man. And it's reflective in how they play because there's no way they are giving the same effort in this Pacers series that they gave when they played against Boston. It is obvious. Anybody with eyes.
But see, I don't necessarily. But again, I don't necessarily think. I think reading the press clippings or paying attention to what people are saying about you is different from underestimating a team once it's tipped off. Once we tip
Bro,
off, once we start playing, and that's
no,
and
they're
it is what it
human
is.
beings, Malik. They're
So,
human beings. That's
so,
Naismith. That's not
but
Tatum.
no, but
That's
that again,
Nembhard.
but it doesn't. What I'm saying is, I don't correlate you once we tip off. And this is like I said, you've played sports, you play sports, and I play sports. Once you tip off, once the game starts, it's the game. You're playing the game. Like all of that stuff should. I'm not saying it does. I'm saying it should go out the window. Everything that you thought, everything that you believed about that team. I don't care if we're playing the Wizards. I don't care if we're playing the Bucks. I don't care if we're playing the Lakers or the Charlotte Hornets or the worst team in the NBA.
You know what I'm
The
gonna do?
Utah Jazz. If you
Uh-huh.
walk into that game, if you walk into an NBA game on any given night, just like on any given Sunday, if you walk into that game with a belief that you're just going to do what you do and you're just going to win,
All
Like
right,
you
peep
can
it.
get your ass beat on any night by any team, and that's why I say to myself in the Eastern Conference Finals, like if you're doing this in the Eastern Conference Finals, that says a lot about you as an organization. That says a lot about your team. That says a lot about everybody. And it to me it goes against everything that we've known about this team up until this point. Now, what I would say before you go, the other reason why I was like starting to get worried about how this team was trending and how the city was trending was and I'll go back to 2003, the 2003 World Series. If you guys remember, 2003 World Series, the Yankees were against the Marlins. We had beaten the Red Sox. That in the NLC, the ALCS, that was with the Aaron Boone home run at the end of the game, and we had beaten the Red Sox, and it was this huge thing, and everybody was cheering, and everybody the city went crazy, and I remember being there when it happened, and but that was the ALCS, and then we went into the World Series and laid an egg against a team that had, against a team in the Marlins that had won, I think, like less than 100, like had won like 90 games in the season. Like the Yankees were clearing away the best team in Major League Baseball throughout that season. And they came out, and it felt like after they won that series against the Red Sox, where they came back from down 3-1, and they came back and took that series. After they won that series, it felt like they were feeling themselves so much, and the city was feeling itself so much that they walked into that series against the Marlins, and they absolutely were not prepared for what the Marlins were going to bring to them. And I do believe that the Knicks were not prepared for what the Pacers were going to bring. That's why I picked the Knicks in 7, because I believed it would take at least 2 games before they figured themselves out, before they figured shit out. I didn't think the only game that still bothers me to this day is game 1. But I definitely believe this series, up until last night's game, the series had been decided by 2 points. Like the first 3 games, the difference between the two teams was 2 points. So I wasn't surprised that it was 2-1, or even going into game 4. I was surprised by that by how poorly they played in game 1, but I'm not surprised by how they've played up until this point, and the fact that this series is teetering on the verge of them being bounced. Not at all. And I'm disappointed in the city. I'm disappointed in the fandom. I'm disappointed in a lot of things associated with this team right now, but I'm not surprised. And I just, if that's the truth, Levon, I can't, in good faith, watch this team play another game of basketball. If I were to believe that they walked into this series believing their own press, believing their own hype,
Yeah.
and thinking that they were going to just boat race, or just take out the Pacers with no healthy respect for that opponent in the Eastern Conference Finals. If I believed that, I wouldn't be able to watch these games. Even if they were up 3-1, even if they were up 3-1 right now, I wouldn't be able to watch, because it's to
Yeah.
me it spits in the face of everything that we've known the Knicks, this team, to
All right.
be, and everything that is real and is good and is true about this team and about this city and about basketball in general. That's just how I
So,
feel.
Yeah.
Ace, I don't want to, because you didn't get to say much. I just want to respond to what Malik said, though.
To Malik's point, to your point, I don't think it's a lack of effort. I think it's Josh Hart is undersized, and he's essentially playing like a forward. He's playing not so much small forward, but as he is power forward. And he's listed at 6'5". He's matched up against Siakam sometimes. Siakam is 6'9", 6'8", 6'10", somewhere around there. So he's giving up height to him. He is not stronger than him. And then when he's on Nesmith, Nesmith is quicker than him, even though they're about the same height. I believe they're both listed at 6'5". He's just getting outplayed on the defensive end, and he's having to do a lot. He's moving the most away from the ball. OG isn't hitting his open shots that they're able to get him, and it's just not going his way. But it's not due to a lack of effort. I think, like you always want to say, it's not an excuse, but I just think they're worn down, and I do believe they're trying as hard as they can, as shown by the effort in Game 3. It didn't seem any less in Game 4. They just got outplayed. It was execution. It wasn't effort. They didn't execute well. They were getting the shots they wanted to get. They weren't going in. The percentages of the shots that they're making are just lower than they did against the Celtics. Whatever, sharpshooter accuracy they had, it just went away. That's just the point I wanted to make. Go ahead, Levon.
That's an accurate point. I mean, all of us are pretty much saying the same exact thing. We're just saying it in different ways. Malik said, instead of overlooked, he said not prepared for when it came to Boston and the Yankees, and then the Yankees going up against the Marlins. I mean, that's my whole thing. You got to remember, man, people seem to think when it comes to our heroes, and I'm going to say heroes to kind of condense what I mean, which is people in sports, or people in movies, or people in politics. When it comes to these people who are on these platforms, we seem to somehow think that they are not human beings. And when I say that, we seem to think that they are immune or exempt from human emotions, human flaws. And it's kind of like our whole lives, if we ever played each other in basketball, to say that when I play Malik, I put forth the same effort as I would play against Anthony. Or when we were on the same team, when we were playing at Battery Park, that, if we played against the guys from Stuyvesant, that we put forth the same effort that we did whenever Damian and his guys jumped on the court. We didn't do that. You don't put forth the same effort against every opponent. You don't do that. That is not human nature. Even in you want to break it down to something as trivial as a video game. When we used to have our Madden tournaments and we all play Madden a different way, I wouldn't play Darnell the same way I played against Toledo, who I knew was infinitely better than Darnell at Madden. And I had to concentrate even more and put forth even more effort. What I'm trying to say is that the New York Knicks, with all of the real life talk filtering into their human ears and eyeballs and brains about how they can't beat the elite teams, and an elite team is staring at them, waiting for them as soon as they get to the playoffs, no matter what seed they end up being, outside of falling out of 3 and 4 or whatever, or falling out of 3, that everybody is like, Boston is the roadblock, Boston is the benchmark, Boston, 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 Boston. When they got to that point where everybody is saying their season is over, you're telling me they don't hear it, that they don't buy into that somehow they are exempt from that emotion, that human element that anybody would fall under, that the whole city is believing, as evident at 7th Avenue after Game 1 win. People are climbing light poles and jumping and hooting and hollering.
People were losing their minds because it was because of the 20-point comebacks and how improbable it was. That first win
it's a victory, but it was the Celtics, the defending champs, the most prolific and efficient,
also the fact that they were
champion.
down until the fourth quarter. And then
I get all that, man. I do, but the fact, defending champs, everything I said, I'm not going to repeat it and drag this on anymore. The most efficient team, championship-wise, they steamrolled their way through the playoffs last year. All of that, they washed us throughout the year. Washed us. You damn right when the Knicks got past that team, they got to the Pacers, and they did not hold them in the same regard. It was obvious. In the first game, they played hard up until the very last moment, and they did not secure that W. That loss was epically bad. It was once in a lifetime epically bad. We'll probably never see another comeback like that in the NBA, at least not for another freaking generation. My whole life watching basketball, I can't remember in college or otherwise seeing that type of comeback in the time that the Pacers did it. 5 3-pointers, a miracle shot that bounces up off the rim and falls through, and then to lose in overtime? No. All they had to do was snap into place and realize this is a good team. They deserve to be here, and not let this guy take 5 open 3-point shots. It was evident they let go of the rope in that game. And I don't think they recovered from it. I think the Pacers steady kept punching them in the mouth ever since. And it's hard to turn it on after you done toned it down. It's hard to try to turn it back on after that. And it was spurts when they did it because, like Malik said, every game has been pretty close with the exception of Game 3. They let that get out of pocket towards the end. But it's no way. It is no way because we watched the Boston series. We watched the Detroit series. And, yeah, they came back from 20 down because they never let go of the rope prior to that Game 1. They never let go. They fought to the end except that one time. And that wasn't execution, fellas. Watch it over again. That was not execution. That was, this is over. All we got to do is secure a couple more rebounds, hit a few more free throws, and it didn't play out like that. I'm convinced they looked past him. Convinced.
And that's where I disagree because I think it definitely was execution on defense. There was lack of defensive intensity and lack of defensive execution.
Due to the fact that they looked past him.
But that's not. But
they've been bad at that all year.
Yeah,
they've never been good at that all season.
You watched that game. Those weren't contested threes. Those were not contested threes. There was guys falling down, not getting around screens and picks. He was taking practice J's out there.
But Levon, what we're saying is, and I don't know what Ace, but what I'm saying is, the Knicks were giving up wide open threes to Boston. Boston wasn't hitting them. The Knicks were giving up wide open looks to Detroit all series.
Don't do that.
Exactly.
No, don't do that.
The New York Knicks have been bad at defending the 3-point line all year.
Those were legit breakdowns in communication. Those open threes at the end of that game to Indiana, to Neesmith were wide open, uncontested looks.
And
that
these
was
were,
OG
and
not
if
getting
you
over the
watch
screen.
if you
that was
watch
Josh
the
falling
remainder of
down.
the season, if you watch the rest of the season, you'll see a lot of the same things. This is what
we're not talking about season. We're talking about money time. We're talking about the playoffs.
But this is what I'm saying. You are who you are. You don't become a different version of you don't become a whole different version or a whole different team. The Knicks are the same team that they have been all season.
Malik, I was watching the game all year. I know what you're talking about.
They have not changed. They
bad
have not
switching.
changed.
I get it. That wasn't what was happening at the end of that game. No,
it is.
Watch it again.
I watched it. I've watched that game too. I've watched that game too many times.
Smith took practice threes. There was no one near him.
Right. And
no one near him.
And OG Anunoby was in drop coverage when they ran that pick. When they ran a pick, OG went under the screen. He didn't jump out to the three. He didn't go over. He didn't challenge the shot. And Neesmith got hot and started making his shots. It happened three times.
Yeah. It's not like it was a breakdown in coverage. There was a man there. The man gave no effort to guard it because they were.
It's not. Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not Levon. I'm not saying that he didn't challenge them. I'm not saying that the threes were challenged and you're saying the threes weren't challenged. I'm saying the fact that they weren't challenged. I'm just not agreeing. I'm not believing that it's because the Knicks said we got this and we don't have to play anymore. I'm saying it's because the Knicks did a lot of the things that we saw the Knicks do in spurts, in games, in series all season. We've seen this happen. And when you see it happen in a game in the last 5 minutes of Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, if you attribute that to a team just letting go of the reins and saying we got it, like this was the same thing that happened in Game 1 with in the Boston series where people were talking about the Boston Celtics. So, like, why are y'all still shooting threes? It's because that's what they do, and they said this is what they came out and said, like, we shoot. This is what we do. We shoot 63s. So even though we're winning the game, and even though we could just take the ball to the basket and that's the way we play. That's the way we've always been, and we're going to win that way or we're going to lose that way. And the Knicks lost in the way that we've seen them lose that way. It just wound up happening in that little crunch time moment in that same situation. And on the flip side of that, they also probably had been leaning on and all season had been leaning on Jalen Brunson end of game heroics, right? And it happened over and over and over again. So many times that the man won Clutch Player of the Year over the course of the season. And they leaned on it again, and it didn't work. And this time, it didn't work. And no matter how many times you go to that well, eventually, if you don't play, we're watching. We're watching the Indiana Pacers, and I'm saying we watched Indiana offensively. We're watching the Indiana Pacers. The ball moves. They play good team. They good sound team basketball. They run.
Okay.
They push. They defend. They're doing a lot of the things that I would love to
Yeah,
see
the
our team do.
Pacers. To that point, the
They
Pacers
play.
got to do that because they don't have anywhere near the top talent in the Towns and the Brunson who can just win every matchup. They don't have
That
any.
is
Not
correct.
even. They don't
That
have
is
that.
true,
Malik.
but they do it. But they
Let me-
do it
let
to
me-
the. But
okay.
they do it to the degree that they win games. This is what
Yeah,
I'm
that's
saying. I'm not
because
saying that they.
Okay, they're well coached. That's their style of play, but that's their style of play because there's no one on that team who can get a clutch bucket outside of Halliburton. If
Looks like Siakam's doing it now.
but you're not dependent on Siakam to do what Cat and he does that every once in a while where you got Cat and JB Clutch Player of the Year, Cat first all team. I don't know if he's first all team.
If
You know the
Siakam didn't
difference
play
in
this
the
well,
quality.
the difference between the Knicks and the Pacers is one game.
You know the difference in the quality of player. The New York Knicks, if Jalen Brunson needs to get to a spot on the floor and get a bucket, it's going to happen. And as funky as it looks, if Karl Anthony Towns needs to get to a spot on the floor or get to the basket to get a bucket, it's going to happen. Go ahead.
No, to that point, I agree with you on that. But for whatever reason, the pace and the play and whatever they're doing is not working offensively. And defensively, I think they're playing defensively how they have all season. They just don't defend the three well. Indiana's hitting good threes. They're not all open. Some of them are being contested and they're still hitting it over outstretched arms. They don't rotate well. So when you keep moving the ball like Malik is talking about, the second and third rotation is where the Knicks are getting caught. And OKC is now in the finals because they just blew out Minnesota at home. It was a blowout most of the game.
There was
and I'm expecting the finals to go this way, to be completely honest, no matter who makes the finals, whether it's the Knicks or the Pacers.
Yeah, I think OKC
it's the OKC Invitational, as Barkley's been calling it all year. So we could talk about what we see going into that. Go ahead.
Wait. We done with the Knicks? I had to step away for a minute. I had more to say.
Finish what you were going to.
Just the last thing I was saying. That's the last thing. I won't say anything more about it because we can move on. There was a clip. You guys probably saw this in the Boston series where it showed Mitch Robinson defending all five players on one possession, right? And the narrative during that conversation was, look at how great Mitch Robinson is. He's defending everybody. He's running here. He's challenging here. He's, here. And that was the narrative. And everybody spun it and everybody talked about how amazing it was. It was on First Things First. And I remember people talking about it. And I was sitting there like, why does he have to do that? There is no reason he should have to do that. Everyone else was out of position. This is why Mitchell Robinson was doing that. And so this is what I'm saying. It's like the same thing can look an entirely different way to somebody to the receiver of it. And that's why I said, I don't deny or denounce or even, I don't go against what you're saying, Levon, in terms of them, reading the headlines and overlooking their opponent. I just can't, as a person, I can't believe that. And then come out there and watch this team play. I have to believe it that what I'm seeing is a better basketball team playing a better brand of basketball than the New York Knicks are. And it makes sense to me because I've seen that happen very frequently over the course of the season. And it hasn't mattered. They did this in the games against Orlando. They did this in the games against the fact that it's happening in this series, it's not a surprise. It's just disheartening because you would have hoped that they would have gotten their shit together by now and come out in the Eastern Conference Finals and played a better brand of basketball, and they're just not. If you're saying that you believe that it's hubris and it's them reading the headline and it's them believing their own hype, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I'm not disagreeing with your take. I'm just saying if that's the case, if we ever found out that was the case, I could probably never watch this team as it's currently constructed again. Because I don't believe that's the case, I can watch it and I can just look at it from a basketball perspective and say they're just getting beat by a better team.
And that's
that's playing
crazy
better
talk.
game.
That's crazy talk.
They're losing to a team that's playing better than them.
Listen,
Playing a better game plan and executing better.
so I think it's a lot like what I said. Our heroes, you seem to put these individuals, these men, these 28, 29, 30-year-old men, which we once were, and we're older now, on some type of pedestal where somehow you could make that mistake. You've probably made that mistake in your life, in work, in competition, in sports, in recreation, where you looked past someone, underestimated them, and they got the better of you because of it. I fully believe, because I have eyeballs, and when I watch this team play and I don't see the same level of effort and enthusiasm and competitiveness that I witnessed in the first two rounds, I see a team that is facing an opponent they overlooked and did not feel would be able to give them the challenge that they have presented thus far. And the evidence is what it is. They were a lower seed than the Knicks. No one was talking about a potential Knicks-Pacers matchup prior to this. It was either Knicks not getting past Boston, and if by some chance the Knicks did get past Boston, Cleveland would be looking at them. The Knicks also beat the Pacers this year more times than they lost to them. I mean, I think they played 3 times. The Knicks won twice, and the Pacers only won once.
2 out of 3. Yep.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
Yes.
So all of that, and like I said, home court advantage. I mean, you lump all these things in, and any human being, which we are, has an opinion, has a bias. It's nice to think that these guys go into every single game and, oh, yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go and play the Tennessee Titans with the same vigor they would the Kansas City Chiefs on a Monday night. And the game against Tennessee is Sunday at 1 o'clock. It's not the case. They're professionals, they're competitive, but that's not how it works. And if you can't look at something with your eyes and say, this product looks different than it did before, then I don't know. Maybe you should stop watching. I mean, I understand the human element.
Because I'm not. It's not about me putting anybody on a pedestal or me aggrandizing the players themselves. It's nothing to do with that. It has to do with exactly what you just said. These guys are professional athletes playing a game and they're professionals. They're whatever you are a professional at. If you overlook your job one day, you can do something. If you overlook, you think today, if you be walking into your job that your job today is going to be an easy day, that could be the day that the shit hits the fan and everything goes haywire and you lose it, right? In any situation, in any profession, if you are a professional at what you do, if you're a professional at what you do, you don't walk into a situation believing that everything is going to go your way. And nothing is going to happen. Nothing's going to happen to derail that situation. So it's not about, in my opinion, it's not about, believing these players to be, infallible or anything along those lines. Sure, I definitely think that players listen to the media and listen, go to social media and pay attention to what's going on. We've seen Kevin Durant and LeBron James and all these guys engage in social media, we saw LeBron James go toe to toe against Stephen A. Smith and all of that stuff because of things that are being said. So they pay attention. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that I'm not willing to give them a pass on that when they go out and play a horrible brand of basketball.
Oh, no, I ain't giving no pass.
4 games. Because to me, if I'm saying that if I'm believing that the reason why they're losing to the Pacers is because they didn't take them seriously, then I feel that what I'm doing is I'm overlooking,
saying they're not prepared.
Right. Well, I'm overlooking how well the Pacers have played and how well they've performed over the course of this series, and the fact that they are, based off of this, how this series has gone, they have played as the better team.
Real quick, Malik, but that goes to my point though. And I said this before, and it was hard for me to say it, but I base my takes in realism. Sometimes the better team doesn't always win, and I
never disagree with that. The more talented team doesn't always win. Yeah, I agree with that.
I
don't always say talent. Talent doesn't mean, but talent. No, that's not true. Talent doesn't mean better.
Okay.
Talent is talent.
Can I finish what I was gonna say? Is take one of the greatest games I ever watched. I stand firm. The Patriots way more talented than the Giants in '07. And Malik tried to say that that's not the case, but okay, I guess. But that team was way more talented. But on that day, they were not the better team. And it could be because they overlooked us. They could have figured, we won 18 games. We also beat this team in the last game of the season. We got this. And they didn't. It happens, man. It happens in sports. Believe it. Teams overlook teams. It's a human thing. Definitely a reason, a viable one for why more talented teams seemingly don't cash in and succeed when they should. It's not the only reason, but it's definitely a viable one. It happens in sports all the time. It happens in boxing. Buster Douglas is not better than Mike Tyson. Buster Douglas is not better than Mike Tyson. Never.
That's like the greatest upset of all time.
But that night he was. That night he was.
That's fair. The Florida Panthers are moving on to the Stanley Cup final. Still to be decided if Edmonton beats Dallas. My father has Edmonton winning the Stanley Cup, bringing the cup back to Canada. I think it's staying in Florida for everybody who's going to be betting on that series. They wrapped up this one in the gentleman's sweep. This one actually wasn't a sweep, unlike last year when Rod Brindamore's team lost in 4 and they said they weren't swept, which was insane. We're going to move on to the NBA Finals with an S after debating the Knicks for the past 45 minutes. And I want to hear what y'all got to say because I believe I already said it, but I'm going to reiterate it again to everybody listening. OKC is going to cover every single game. It sounds crazy that the Knicks and the Pacers are going at each other so hard. Everybody believes that OKC, the Thunder, are going to win this one. And it does feel a bit inevitable. Like, they won 68 games during the regular season. That's one of the best records in the NBA, 70% win percentage. It's like winning 110 games in baseball, or kind of what Kansas City did last year, going 15-2 and somehow losing the Super Bowl. It's unlikely that OKC does not win this championship. So I'd like it to be the Knicks who lose to them in the finals, but I'll be more than happy to watch Pacers get swept in Oklahoma and then go back to Indiana and get swept 2 more. As they have Mike Epps and Pat McAfee sit courtside and watch them get demolished. Levon, I don't know who you want to pick, but you go ahead. Or Malik, since Levon's not ready.
No, I switched to my car and the volume was so low I couldn't hear you. Are you talking about hockey?
I'm talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder and whoever faces them in the finals.
Did you say something about the
I
Panthers?
just gave my father's pick of Edmonton winning the Stanley Cup. I said I think Florida's going to go back-to-back the Panthers. Anybody cares?
Well, when it comes to the NBA, the NBA Finals is not decided. Like I said, I'm not all out on my Knicks.
The NBA Finals start June 5th, Thursday.
I am not.
But whoever goes. So you think so? Let me ask you a better question. If the Knicks win this series and go to the NBA Finals, do you believe they can win the championship?
I'm gonna tell you this: the Knicks are the best team left in the NBA playoffs. They just don't play like it, and that might be partly because Tibbs doesn't run good offense. I mean, that might be something to that. But the way the Knicks are currently constructed, there's no team in the NBA right now that should be able to play with them. And that's if they do basketball things, like to Malik's point. If Jalen Brunson could somehow, with the gravity he creates going to the cup, average 7 to 10 assists a game, Karl Anthony Towns, Hartenstein can't guard Karl Anthony Towns. Miles Turner can't guard. Siakam can't guard him. I mean, this guy.
What about the rest of the team?
They just cannot do it, man. Properly.
Okay.
Catch gravity, his ability to pass. I mean, the Knicks is currently constructed the way they're constructed. If they play up to their full capabilities, I'm just dead serious.
You think they can beat the Thunder in a 7-game series?
I do. I truly do. Okay. They just play in a way in which doesn't maximize their full potential. And that might be the coach. That truly might be the coach. But it's no way you have one of the best point guards, scoring point guards in the league, clutch player of the year, one of the best big men in the league. I mean, it might be two pure centers in the league better than the one we got. And then you surround him with role players like OG, Mikal Bridges. Who am I forgetting in that starting five? Josh Hart might be the weakest link of that group. And like Malik just said, name a center in the league who can guard all five positions like Mitchell Robinson can. Why are the Knicks not the best team left in the playoffs?
Oklahoma City Thunder have been the best team all year.
Because they play like it. They play like it and they deserve it. They do. But I'm talking
and they're
about
more talented and they're younger and quicker and they play better.
They're not more talented. Top to bottom, player for player. After Shea, the Knicks probably have the best three players after that. Nobody's better than Towns on that team.
So LeVon has the Knicks winning the championship.
That's right.
Make that bet. You'll get great odds right now. They're probably plus 1,700.
I sure do.
They're down 3 games to 1.
And if they pull it off, neither one of y'all
this series
nothing ever again.
And then if the Knicks win the championship, if the Knicks win the NBA championship, I will streak through Times Square naked.
All right, Paul Pierce.
That's the day I was born.
Look,
Malik, go ahead and make your pick.
It's funny because I agree with Levon, but I also agree with you, Ace. I agree with Levon in the sense that, and I've said this all season. The Knicks have 4 players on their team who can average 20 points a game. They just don't play a brand of basketball that gets them the 20 points per game. And they don't play a style of basketball, either on offense or defense, that maximizes the talents of these players that they have on the team. That is what we're seeing, and that's what we've seen. The only team that I believe, top to bottom, roster composition all the way down, up and down the roster, that had a better roster, especially, starting 5, than the Knicks, was the Boston Celtics. It was it. It was the only team.
I was muted, but I said Boston before Malik said Boston because I knew he was going to say Boston. Yes.
Every other team.
Way to jump in and take credit for yourself.
Every other team in the NBA, when I looked at their starting 5 and I looked at the talent on that, the talent is on the starting 5.
Yeah.
I firmly believed that the Knicks had the better starting 5 than any one of those teams. Now, the Knicks didn't have a great bench coming into the season. And you knew Tibbs wasn't going to play his bench coming into the season. And you knew that was going to be an issue coming into the season. I believed that the Knicks were one transaction cycle away from building that bench to be what it needed to be in order to make a run so that you're 10 deep, 9 deep. But I believed with the guys like Landry Shamet and not DeLon Wright because he just got on the team, but Mitchell Robinson off the bench and Landry Shamet when he looked like he was doing in the season. And Deuce McBride and those guys. I believed that they had enough so that this 5 could carry them into it. I say that, so I don't disagree with Levon in any way, shape, or form with that. And I do believe that man for man, talent for talent, they have a better team. They have a better, more talented team than the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Oh yeah, way better.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are playing the best.
They got the MVP over there.
Yeah, but he's the one guy. His running mate is Jalen Williams. You can take Jalen Williams away with either OG or Mikal.
What do they do with Chet? What do they do to stop Chet?
But Ace, I would argue going into that
is
series
a role player, sir.
I would argue going into that series that talent for talent, Minnesota had a better team.
Malik, let me
I would have argued that going into that series, the talent for talent, Minnesota had a better team, even though I picked OKC to win the series.
Okay.
I picked OKC to win the series because of when you watch OKC play with the way that they play defense, with the way
great team basketball.
Everything about them is about team basketball, and then they have Shea. So that's the other part of it. It's like they play great team basketball. Everybody shares it. The defense is great. They have switchable wings. Both
Yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
bigs, both their bigs rebound, block shots, and play and do whatever little bit of scoring that they need to do. And then, oh, by the way, they also have Shea.
So
So
then, go ahead.
if what was
Oh,
this?
my head.
If the Knicks could play the brand of basketball that the OKC Thunder could play,
Just a
that they
little
play
bit. Just a little.
with the talent that they have, they're the best team in the NBA.
Just a little.
But they don't,
mm,
and that's why I say that I agree with you, Ace. At the end, I agree
yeah.
based off of everything that we've seen for the
Chat.
90 some odd games that we've seen over the course of this season, the OKC Thunder are the best team. I do believe that if the Pacers continue to play the way they're playing right now, there will be some very interesting NBA Finals games. There will be some
Oh,
very
really?
interesting NBA Finals
Oh,
games where
no.
it'll be
No, the
You don't think
125.
OKC will smother them?
Pacers will get killed.
It will be because of the way that the Pacers run off of makes and misses. They will try to force
No.
the they will force the pace. It won't
I'm gonna be
work.
honest. I'm gonna
Eventually,
watch
it
game
won't
one
work.
and game two, and if they turn into blowouts, it's gonna be tough to
Yeah,
make me watch game three and four.
eventually it won't work. I'm saying it won't
Okay.
work eventually because there's other teams that have tried to play the Thunder that way and it doesn't eventually ultimately it doesn't work. You might get a game from them, but it doesn't work
They've been
in the
wearing
end.
everybody out that way. I hear you.
So
You know what? To your point, the styles match up well, and at least it should be more competitive than I think. But if they get blown out game one or game two or both, like what happened with there's been two blowouts in this series with Minnesota. Minnesota really needed to win game four at home in order to
Listen,
force. Well, actually, yeah, game four at home in order to force another one and get out of
we
this
talk
gentleman's sweep. But yeah,
so
it just happened that way.
the Pacers and the Thunder are mirror images of each other, except the Thunder, to Ace's point, this is where it matters, have the MVP. Like Miles Turner
And a
is the
much taller team.
yeah, that too. The Thunder are a much taller team. They have two legit centers that they can throw at Miles Turner or cause a problem. Um, they got Jay, who like Brunson, nobody on the Pacers can truly guard. They'll throw Nembhard at him. They'll throw Neesmith at him, but he'll eat them up with fouls like Brunson does, and he'll still get to his spots like Brunson does. But then you figure, okay, who's going to stop Halliburton? They got answers for that. They got a slew of guys that they can throw at Halliburton to slow him down, from Williams to Dort to the Joe kid and probably some other cats that I'm missing. They're a deep team. They play great defense. They play shared basketball. They can shoot the three. So yeah, they can beat the Pacers and they play the same exact style because they know how to run. They can get out and run. They can play half court. They can do all of that. So I think the Thunder I think they would roll in that series. I think they probably win. I'd pick them in 5. I wouldn't even, unless the NBA wants to make it interesting and the refs get involved and decide to do that. Because the one thing that the Pacers don't have that
Yeah.
OKC does, and I always forget about Pascal. Unless Pascal turns it on and remembers that, he won a finals and he has that experience. But the Pacers don't have a guy like Shea who can go get a shot. They don't have a guy like that who can go get a shot when needed, or who can create that gravity and foul bait, like people like to say. That's not Halliburton's game. That's not even Pascal's game. Pascal's good when you can set him up. He was getting set up in Toronto. He's getting set up now. So he's good when you can set him up. He gets those transition buckets. He gets a good matchup on a pick and roll, and, he's got a shorter guy on him and he shoots over him. But Pascal's not the kind of guy that can, get the ball top of the key, face you up and get a bucket. OKC's got a guy who can do that. The Knicks have 2 who can do that. That's why I said they have the more talented squad top to bottom. If they were a little deeper and if they played a better brand of team basketball, they'd probably, already be waiting for whoever's going to win that Minnesota OKC series. But that might fall on Tips. He's a defensive coach. And where the Knicks suffer, if anywhere, is offensively. It's obvious because they should kill with the pick and pop, with the pick and roll when it comes to Brunson and Cat, and that shit is way too hard, way too difficult when you watch it. It's painful. how difficult it is between those two when it comes to that. But
We
yeah.
took the long way to get home, but we finally got there.
Yeah.
The answer is fire tips.
And I would and I would again, and I would if I was picking this, if it's Pacers Thunder, I'm also saying Thunder in 5. But what I'm saying is, I believe that because of the fact that they do play such a similar style of basketball, I do think the games themselves, there will be 1 or 2 games in this series. I don't think they're all going to be 15, 20-point blowouts. I think that there'll be 1 or 2 games in that series where it can cut either way. I would pick OKC to win those games, but I think that there's going to be at least 1 or 2 games in that series where you're going to see if the Pacers are playing the best brand of basketball that they can possibly play, you're going to see a game. You're going to get a really good game that's that trends itself into being relatively close at the end of the fourth quarter. OKC may still win that game, and I would pick them to win that game.
I hope it
but
doesn't
I
get to that.
wouldn't.
It probably will, man. I hope not. That'll be what a boring finals that'll be.
I shudder to think. No, yeah, you mean if it blowouts, Vaughn?
I mean,
You hope it
we
doesn't
saw
get
it
to,
happen
you hope
once
it's not all
before. I can
blowouts?
see it happen.
Wait, what? I didn't hear what Malik mumbled something. What happened?
No, I said you said you hope it doesn't get to that. You said you like to all blowouts.
No, I don't want to see OKC and the Pacers. That is boring finals basketball, and not because of the two
That's
cities.
boring to you?
Yeah, there's no juice in that.
Wow.
The Pacers are. I mean, granted, I like Carlisle. I like him a lot. He's a great coach, championship coach. I even like Halliburton. I do. But the Pacers have gotten to this by playing a good brand of team basketball against flawed teams. I mean, I love the Knicks, but the Knicks are flawed, and it's showing. There's a chink in that armor that I really can't, find what it is because on paper, and even when they get it going, they're a juggernaut. But for some reason, they can't. And then they smacked down the Milwaukee Bucks. They probably would have anyway, but there was no Lillard. And then they smacked down Cleveland, where Cleveland, I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I want to give the Pacers credit, but I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch OKC and the Pacers run up and down the court, and then OKC just proves that, we run just like you do, but we play defense, so we're going to win in 5. It's just not compelling.
That's basketball, man.
Yeah, but when you don't have a dog in the fight, and I won't if the Knicks don't make it, and neither will the Celtics fans, how many people are going to tune in to watch that series? If they had...
Oh, I don't really care about the ratings. Like I don't. That's listen. That's ESPN's problem. That's ABC's problem.
When your team is gone, you watch for Steph Curry to go over LeBron James versus whoever or Blase.
Hey, listen, dog. If they blow them out in all their 4 wins or in 3 of the 4 wins to win this in 4 or win this in 5 or 6, or win this in 5, then it'll just be not interesting. Kind of like the Super Bowl. When Kansas City didn't have a point at halftime, I was like, oh, this is over. They're cooked. I don't even know. I took an extra long break, got some extra wings, got a couple more beers. I was making plans. I was making beer runs. I was like, well, this is done.
And I know Shea won the MVP, but he's not anywhere near close to the face of the league, man.
Will be after he wins the title. He'll be the first Canadian to be the face of the league.
Outside of people in Oklahoma City and Indiana, very few people.
If you win the championship, you win the championship. I understand it's not the Texas won the World Series, but you win the title, you win the title.
He's not the face of the league. You just called him
if he wins the championship. If he wins the championship, he will be.
No, that's not how that works.
That's literally how that works.
So Jason Tatum is the current. So Tatum is the current face of the NBA.
They just don't like Jason Tatum. They don't think Jason Tatum has personality.
But he won the title. He's the face. He was the face of the league this past season.
He won the face of. That's why it was such a controversy that he didn't play in Paris when he was on the Olympic team. Yes, he is the face of the league.
You just said
they pushed the old guys out of the way and they took it.
So Tatum
is the young guys.
Tatum is the current face.
As far as I'm concerned, I would say yes, actually.
Well, so I guess as far as you're concerned, that makes it so. Why didn't you say so? Enough said.
Oh,
I didn't know that Jason Tatum.
Ace has decreed from up on high. Jason Tatum is the current face of.
Forget Steph Curry and LeBron James. Box office.
They're old,
Jason
man.
Tatum.
They're on their way out.
Those are the faces.
They're on their way out.
Those are still the faces of the league. So.
It's not how that works. If they're on the way out.
Steph Curry comes to your city, you know, he's selling out, and there's a lot of Steph Curry jerseys sitting in the stands, no matter where you go. Same thing with LeBron James, as much as I dislike him. Tatum is not that guy. He won the title.
They got to retire eventually.
Not that guy. Well, when they do, the question still lingers: who's going to carry the league base-wise? And I don't think it's going to be Shea in OKC.
Who do you think it's going to be then? Since you want to have this ESPN first take conversation.
They want it to be Ant-Man, sir. They would love it to be that guy.
Who wants it to be that?
I think the league would love if it was Anthony Edwards.
If the league wanted that, they'd have him in more commercials. They have Shea in every commercial you can imagine. The man's in more ads than Shaquille O'Neal.
He's got one ad with his teammates, and they're walking down a runway.
And I see it constantly.
Yeah, that's
and he had another ad last year, and I saw it constantly. I've seen it all season. I've seen it all season. I've been seeing it since March.
Right. So when the NBA season is over, we want to see how many of those stay Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams commercials. Right. I will watch.
How many commercials you seen with Jalen Hurts? I haven't seen any. I'm going to Disney World commercials with him.
Exactly. He's not the face of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is the face of the NFL.
Even though he beat Mahomes straight up.
Patrick Mahomes is still the face of the NFL.
Well, let's see. Let's see if he can win a few more. We'll see how that
goes. Head and shoulders, State Farm. Yes, Patrick Mahomes of the National Football League. Still the face.
We'll see. We'll see.
Steph Curry and LeBron James will still be next to Kevin Hart on those freaking Capital One commercials and those State Farm commercials. He will still see those two there. Yes. Yes. Face of the league. It's not going to be
Devontae will have something to say. We're going to get into our shout-outs since you keep hijacking this, so we can wrap this up after an hour.
I'm hijacking. It's disrespectful.
Malik, do you have any shout-outs?
Malik's not paying attention. What are you looking at, man?
He's paying attention. He's tired of your shit.
He's not tired of my shit. What do you want? What are you looking at?
Oh, I'm just scrolling. On different things. I always scroll.
I will say,
while we talk.
I think Caleb did not say that. I saw it on Facebook, and they put it in quotes like he said it. And I looked, and I didn't see him actually quote and say that he wants his tush to be pushed. So I want to apologize to Caleb Williams if he did indeed not say that. But if he did say it, I think it would be an interesting talking point.
It absolutely would be. And that's why my first shout out is to Caleb Williams for having to still talk about whether or not he wanted to be a Chicago Bear a year ago. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't really matter, honestly speaking, whether he wanted to be a Bear or not. He's on the Bears. He's playing for the Bears. And guess what? He's going to be there this season. So who gives a shit? Honestly speaking,
pretty much.
Shit. It's the media cycle. It's a slow news day. To Levon's point, it's OKC and potentially Indiana in the NBA Finals. Nobody's going to be watching that shit. It's baseball season, and nobody watches baseball before July. So, like, it's hot take season for the NFL still, because guess what? Because football is king in this country.
Shout out to answer that question. ESPN does a terrible job of covering the NBA. Like, they just come on and debate random stuff the day after the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. It is insane to me.
Exactly.
They would never cover the NFL playoffs this way.
Because they absolutely have nothing else to talk about. And that's the reality of the situation. This has become such a football. This has become such a country that's driven by football, and that, both in college and in the NFL, by the way.
College basketball is dead. It's not
honesty,
dead, but it's getting close.
All other sports just kind of play to hold up to hold our interest for a little bit of time until the NFL season kicks off. Obviously, shout out to the Thunder for taking care of business, getting themselves into the NBA Finals, being the youngest team since the 2012 the OKC Thunder, led by KD, Harden, and Russell Westbrook. This is the youngest team in the NBA Finals since then. See if they get it done this time. Shout out to Julius Randle, because when I predicted this series, and I predicted OKC in 7, when I predicted the series, I said two things were going to happen. I said there's nobody on Minnesota that can guard Shea, and Randle's going to Randle. And Randle Randled in 2 of those games. He had 2 games. He had one game. Look, he had one game where he
got deep in his bag.
28 points. That game that they won in Game 3. And yes, in today's game, he had 24, and there were 2 games in this series where he combined for a total of 10 points. So Randall, that's exactly what he does. And when he is, and unfortunately, as much as I liked, as much as I think Julius Randle can be a contributing player on a team that is, a contender for the finals. We actually just saw him be a contributing player on that. He cannot be your number one guy. He cannot be the guy that you depend on for anything more than what he gives. Everything that he gives needs to be, a surprise to some degree. If you depend on him to do anything more, unfortunately, there's limitations to him and he can't do it. But shout out to him for getting to where he's gotten to, and I hope you get your bag because you're obviously playing for that. And that's it. That's it. It's a slow week. Shout out to everybody else. Shout out to the Knicks. Shout out to them getting a game. Get a game 5 win, please. Don't lose on your home court. If you're gonna lose, make it be back in Indiana. Don't lose on your home court. Don't be shut down there. Don't let Trae Young be right. Don't let Trae just like please don't let Trae Young, Tyrese Halliburton, don't let them be right, please.
Man,
Tired of these guys.
No
Tired of these guys having the one up on New York. Like if they're gonna lose a series on the road in their house in a respectable game 6. Win at home, please. All right, I'm out.
Levon, you got any shout outs?
Yeah. Not gonna bury the lead like our moderator did, and I'm going to finish strong on my New York Knicks. Contrary to what a lot of lukewarm and flippity flop fans want to say, it was a great year. It was an up and down year, but it was still a good one. This is by far my favorite New York Knicks team of all time. And that includes the team that went to the finals and lost to Houston. That includes the team that went to the finals and lost to the Spurs. I love how this team is constructed. I think Jalen Brunson he's not an excellent leader. I like my leaders to be a little bit more inspirational and vocal. But as far as his play and what he exemplifies, he is a very good captain of this squad. I think Karl Anthony Towns is excellent. I love his demeanor. I think he's an excellent Knick, and I hope no matter what happens that he is on this team for the foreseeable future. I think he is a matchup nightmare, and he plays, despite his defense, a winning brand of basketball. And I want to defend Josh Hart, even though I kind of killed Josh Hart because he deserves it. I think he's not playing confident right now, and it nerves me because this team goes as he does. Josh Hart is the Derek Jeter of this team, and I don't mean talent-wise. I mean Derek Jeter had a way of doing the inspirational. He had a way of rallying the troops, and when I say the troops, I mean the team, I mean the fans, I mean the city, with how he played and the things he did. And Josh Hart is that guy for us. When we're at our best, he is out there hustling and getting loose balls and grabbing offensive rebounds and taking charges and being fiery, because that is what New York is. And that is what we respond to. And I just wish he was that guy in this series, and I don't know why he is not. But yeah, shout out to these Knicks, these 2024, 2025 New York Knicks. Ever since that trade was announced, I can't remember when it was. I was on the cruise at the time when we got Bridges, and this whole thing came together. And at the time, the Ragu was still on the team, Mr. Ragu. This is my favorite Knicks squad of all time, and I have high hopes for this team. And I still think we got a chance because I truly believe we're a better team than the Pacers. And Game 5 could be a gimme. They could let up and concede this to us because they feel that they, can beat us at any time and would want to win this on their home court, which we should take advantage of and make them pay for it by taking Game 5 and Game 6. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's one game at a time. It's not over yet. And go New York, go New York, go.
Shout out to my New York Liberty. Shout out to my New York Knicks. Shout out to the Liberty for shutting down Caitlin Clark and giving the Indy and the Fever another L. I hope that rivalry continues and we continue to beat the brakes off of them after winning our second championship again this year. Hope we can see them again in the Eastern Conference Finals, or just in the conference finals, and I guess beat them on the way to winning another WNBA title. Shout out to my New York Knicks for making it to the conference finals, getting past the Celtics as everybody believed that they would, especially me. And shout out to the Knicks fans who were in Carmel, Indiana, who were able to survive a night getting stabbed in the goddamn back by a maniac. That 24-year-old kid, I believe, I want to name him because it's insane that he actually tried to get away with this. Because I remember posting this up in the group, and it was just crazy to me that he even tried this. Jarrett Funk, Carmel, Indiana. I hope they throw the book at you. I hope you get a good amount of time to think about what you did and realize that sports is never serious enough to try to stab somebody. I don't know what you was thinking. I don't know what you thought was worth it, but it wasn't, and you're insane. I hope the Knicks, if those people are out and healthy enough out of the hospital, hope they fly him out to Game 5 so they can see the Knicks win in person. And shout out to Levon for being, smart enough to realize that Facebook puts out a lot of bad information and just wanted to see it get a crazy reaction out of me for giving me wild misinformation. I see where he gets all of his misinformation from, and it makes sense now why he thinks how he thinks. I like his crazy conspiracy theories. It is kind of nuts, but we will see. And shout out to the Untold series. I knew not that much stuff about the Liver King, but I would check that out if I were y'all. That dude is insane, and he built an empire by eating raw meat on video for years, and I'm kind of shocked and amazed that he was able to pull this off for so long without people thinking that homeboy was roided out of his mind. But shout out to him, he pulled it off, and that is it for us tonight. We're gonna end when the Knicks end in the playoffs. So if Thursday is the last game, this will be the last show for a while. We might come back and do another show, but I'm gonna be planning some stuff around fantasy football picks and stuff like that over the summer and into August. So peace and y'all stay blessed. We out.
Out.